Happy HangTime New Year to everybody each and around the state of Michigan or wherever you may be watching or listening around the world. It is 2019. It is now really time to get the basketball season going here.
In the nitty-gritty,
in the
man.
state of Michigan, no doubt. This is HangTime Michigan. We do have HangTime Indiana starting up next week, so we're excited for that show. So you'll have an opportunity to listen and check out everything that's happening in Indiana hoops. This is the Michigan Podcast. This is Scott Burnstein. This is TJ Kelley. What's up, gentlemen? Thank you. It's been a minute since we got together.
Yeah. There was a lot of basketball in between.
There was
since our last show, and it was pretty eventful. And 2018 has kind of continued over to 2019.
Right.
Just because there's so much parity that's going on.
And because of the change in the schedule for the seasons, it's a little bit weird for me to be going to games in the first week, second week of January, and see teams with 10 games under their belt already.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it also means that they're more battle tested, that they've gotten their bearings, they've gotten their footing, that we're kind of really halfway into the season right now.
Yeah. It's interesting the approach of some. But last night I was shooting some girls basketball, so I went and checked out Hartland because they're trying to crack our top 10. They've got one of their top stars back. Solemn. They hadn't played in 3 weeks. So whereas Northville, who they were playing, was a team that was undefeated, but they had come off a Christmas tournament. So you always it's funny because the first half they were leading by a point. At the end of the half, they ended up outscoring them like 35-1 or to 2. In the second half, they got their legs under them. So some of these teams might have a little bit of issues getting back into it if you haven't played since early December.
There's different approaches, I think, that coaches take for the holiday break. Some want to give their kids 2-3 weeks off to refresh and recharge, and some fill that time in between the last day of school and New Year's with 2 or 3 games at showcases. And
and you're obviously involved with a lot of those. So I mean, what is your take on teams that want to just fill it and play whoever they can for the challenge, or take a rest?
Well, I don't think anybody wants 2 weeks off.
Right.
So at least they'll play one game. However pretty much it fits in schedule. And then I also know that there are other schools that I've talked to, and they're saying, "Oh, well, all my kids go on vacation."
Right. Yeah.
So for some people, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But then, when you have a good crew,
just a real quick funny anecdote that I heard yesterday from Benny White, the longtime Detroit King coach that was at Eastern Michigan, now is in the OAA at Birmingham Groves. He said, "I've never coached in a community like this before, where kids are coming to me around Thanksgiving being like, 'Hey, coach, I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks in December on vacation with my family.'" He's like, "Vacation?
Right.
What's up? I've never had kids taking vacations in the middle of the season. Who's going on vacation?"
Well, it's like spring break for baseball players. A lot of them. Some they go and play all spring break.
But some of it's socioeconomic. The kids that you're coaching at King, their families weren't taking them down to Florida or Hawaii over Christmas.
Exactly.
But the kids you're coaching at Groves, a little more upper mobility.
And to be honest, it was Mark West, the former coach at Birmingham Groves, when he first got the job, before Benny, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, man, it'd be nice to have Groves in there. You got a nice group of seniors and stuff like that. He's like, can't play over the brick. These guys are going on vacation.
Yeah, doing like calamari or whatever, man. Getting
it's also one of those things.
I want to get some calamari.
I remember playing hockey and baseball as a kid, and I had a choice. Do you want to go on spring break, or do you not want to? You want to go on February and ruin the hockey season, or do you want to go over the Easter break and then ruin the baseball season?
We had a rule. I mean, I went to a school in the suburbs in Birmingham, a private school where almost everyone had money at that school, and my coach was like, if you're playing varsity basketball, you ain't going on vacation over Christmas, and you're not going on vacation in winter break. This is the commitment you're making, and you can do that when you're in college.
There's no I in team. Hold on. Isn't it our pizza?
Yes, exactly. Yes, okay. Well, HangTime is presented by Lawrence Tech, the MHSA, Hungry Howies, and BCAM. Speaking of BCAM, we'll have Matt Mowery and Dan Young here to end the show. We're actually going to debate the issue of should there be a shot clock or not. And in girls basketball, that usually ends up really being an issue, but some boys teams as well. And also, we are going to talk with Hartland girls head coach Don Palmer, and that is how we will wrap the show.
Don's been around for a long time. I remember when Don was, I think he was coaching the boys at Milford I think he took Milford to a Final Four in the late 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Milford was a team notorious, especially in the late 2000s, of slowing it down. 25, 30-point games. It's brutal. So, but, it's a topic.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I think Saginaw and Ann Arbor Skyline, they wound up going into double overtime.
Right.
And that was the same thing. They were just holding the ball.
Yeah.
Like, wow, Saginaw's holding the ball for 4 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, imagine, and I'll always love to say, finding their inner Ben Kelso.
Yes.
I mean, it is what it is. Some guys like to run the flex offense for 45 seconds, Other guys like to hold the ball. I mean, it is what it is. I think for the fans, they want to see some scoring, and, they can watch bad basketball in their driveway with their watching their nephews or sons or nieces or whoever else. So it is what it is.
All right, so let's get into some rankings and results. Obviously, we record this every week on Wednesday. We get it out to you on Thursday, and you've got new rankings that have come out, and we've kind of already had some games on Tuesday. So first off, I'll just start and mention that Romeo Weems was off the hook.
Beast mode 24/7,
yes.
Just ice running through that kid's veins. We are very lucky in the climate that we're in right now, that he stayed in the state of Michigan for his entire high school career, and that we, as the fans and as the journalists that cover it, are really benefiting from having the phenomenon that is Romeo Weems for all 4 years, because he is a very special player with just X factor written all over him.
They beat Warren Mott 84-50 yesterday. He had a oop to start the game. We'll have the highlights on State Champs this Sunday night. He showed them to you. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it was a dunk fest.
There's nothing that he doesn't do. He's such a complete player.
Yeah.
And I love multidimensionality when we're talking about basketball players and kids that can just score, or kids that can just shoot, or kids that can just defend. They put themselves at really such a liability in terms of recruiting if you can only do one thing. And Romeo is the master of doing everything.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes those around him better.
Yeah, the talk of the nation is Zion Williamson
at
Duke, and what he can do. There's so much more than just dunk the basketball, which he can do very well, and with the best of them. But yes, exactly. But he is more of a complete player, somebody you could compare to of a LeBron James.
Yeah, I say he's the LeBron of the mitten. Just the style of game that he plays. He can shoot, he can score, he can slash, he can create. He gets off on the break and is just his dunks are like thunderclaps.
Yeah.
He's a finisher.
Yeah, and people forget LeBron was skinny in high school.
He's a leader. Yeah.
He was. I mean, they were showing some video of him not too long ago.
Yeah, see what's skinny. I remember Manny Harris and stuff like that. Marcus Bingham and stuff like that. To me, is skinny. I was watching.
Manny Harris played LeBron. Redford went to his school.
Deion Harris.
Oh, that's right, Deion Harris. That's right, not me.
But I was watching Trey Williams last night playing for Purdue.
Yes,
and they were
like,
he lost a 6-year-old, and I'm like 50 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just like, man, but it's one of those things where guys got to, kind of figure out where their body is, and obviously when they get to college, that'll obviously go one way or another. But one thing I do like about Romeo is, he's multidimensional. He can play physical. He's got good size. He was 6'6", 6'7".
He's Mr. Basketball.
215 pounds.
There's no question that he's the runaway front runner.
So it's like Romeo and Rakia, right? As far as
he's gonna
it's competition, right?
It's those.
He's gonna have to lose. I mean, he's gonna have to, God forbid, get hurt, or he's at the front of the pack, and then there are a handful of players that are. Candidates that are legitimate Division I players, legitimate superstars in their own right, but just not at the level that Romeo Weems is.
Maybe unless Jalen Terry or Scooby Johnson were to move up into
the class. Yeah.
That'd be the pretty much only.
But it's also a result of the mass exodus in the summer of 2018 of 8 or 9 of the state of Michigan's top players leaving for prep school. I mean, if Rocket Watts was still here, he would be giving Romeo a run for his money.
I think same with Hartland, same with Mowery.
Right, same with Harlan Beverly.
So it is what it is. We got to roll with the punches and deal with what we have. Make the most of what we have, and we're fortunate to have a player like Romeo. And
what's fun?
One of the things why he's here is because he wants to win Mr. Basketball.
Right.
The other thing is he wants to win. There's a reason why I think he committed to DePaul earlier, and I know that there've been tons of speculation of why he did or whatever. Sometimes you just go in and, hey, I want to get the recruiting out of the way. and now I can study on or focus on winning a
They show me love, you know, and I appreciate that, you know, and they put trust in me before my stock maybe was super high. So,
True.
Well, let's go down, but we'll do it by divisions, and we'll see what's happening right now in the various divisions. Last night, UD Jesuit beat Orchard Lake St. Mary's 69-62, talking about Tuesday results. Cass Tech beat Collegiate Prep. King beat Western International. Those are no surprises. Okemos over Lansing, your number 6 team. East Lansing, excuse me, 58-30. Yeah, there isn't a Lansing. Clarkston beat Troy last night, 55-37. They're 8-2. Catholic Central beat Warren De La Salle in overtime, and that was Coach Brandon Sinowi's 100th win. So congratulations to him. And Macomb Dakota over Sterling Heights Stevenson, and Grand Rapids Forest Hills Northern beat Cedar Springs 71-38. What's your feel right now, guys, on Division One and kind of where we're
wide open?
Yeah, wide open. If you were to pick a Final Four right now, I mean, you would like to say the University of Detroit Jesuit, but who's to say that Renaissance can't beat University of Detroit Jesuit? You know, you'd like to say Cass Tech, but who can't say that King won't beat Cass Tech? Who's to say, you could say, like, I have Forest Hills Northern right now, but they're probably going to play Muskegon, and, you know, I mean, it's so up in the air.
As much as a no-brainer is that Mr. Basketball race right now, is, you know, it's a 180 from that for who's going to be at Breslin Center, who's going to be raising the state title come March in Division One, because it's just there are probably, you know, we got a 10 here, and there's probably 12, 13 teams, 14 teams that could legitimately be there at the end of March, you know, posting a banner.
I wouldn't be surprised. You know, I know we started off earlier in the year when we have the Ann Arbor teams and we had Ypsilanti. You know, I know that some people, you know, they're really high on Ypsilanti Lincoln. You know, Ypsilanti Lincoln's only going to get better as Bates he keeps on evolving and gets more playing time,
more minutes. Absolutely.
You know, he gets to learn the game, or you know, adjust to the high school game, which he's done a great job of so far.
Yep.
But then you look at teams like Ann Arbor Skyline, who are just pretty much got to find their niche, because it's not like they're getting blown out. They've lost some close games. You know, same thing with Ann Arbor Pioneer, who, you know, they're playing pretty well. Does Ann Arbor Huron with all their youth, do they really want to?
I really think there are
flicking, and they've got some guys that are hurt as well.
I really think there are 15 teams that could make an argument for being there at the when it's all said and done. And I don't think I can't remember in the 10, 11 years that I've been doing this, you know, getting paid for it. I can't ever remember where you could say there was that many teams that were in the mix to win a state title.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to make March a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into regionals, I think that's where it's really going to become.
Let me get some clarification with Jesuit. Are they a full roster right now?
No, they're still missing Jalen Thomas.
But Daniel Friday's playing,
and Caleb Hunter will be eligible in 2 weeks.
But Friday's back.
But Friday is back, and Julian Dozier, who was phenomenal in a win over Chicago Or.
Hit the game winner.
Hit the game winner. Had a phenomenal second half in that game. But yeah, they're pretty good.
And what's Jalen Thomas's situation?
He's just got a sore ankle where, I mean, he just taking everything. You know,
he hasn't played in a while.
Yeah, he hasn't played maybe since the first game of the year.
Okay, so he's someone that you could consider a Mr. Basketball candidate.
I think they lost to New Haven, and Jalen was not playing.
He's a 6'10" center going to UMass. Yep. So I mean, the fact that UDJ right now is number 1 in the state, and have played some of those games without Daniel Friday and a majority of those games without Jalen Thomas, you know, kind of speaks to where their upside is, because, you know, if they're number 1 in the state without those guys, imagine when they're at full strength.
Well, I think also notice the 2 top teams that I have there. University of Detroit Jesuit, their coach is Pat Donnelly, who is one of the best in the state.
No doubt.
And you also have Grand Blanc with Mike Thomas, who is one of the best in the won
a state title.
Won 2 state titles back to back. Won 3 times in a row. At one point, he was, I think, 5 or 6. You know, at the Breslin, because they lost to Pershing.
He was at Kalamazoo Central, right?
Yeah. So.
And you've got Carmen Ainsworth right behind them, so so Flint area is strong.
Yeah, and Grand.
And it was strong in football.
Yeah, Grand Blanc wound up beating Carmen Ainsworth, and that'd be the difference. Why I have them above them. Carmen wound up beating Cass, so have that little thing there, and then Cass wound up beating King. So just to kind of figure out those top 5, that's pretty much kind of how I wound up going in through that order.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Grand Blanc also beat Saginaw that was, you know, in this past week, which also, Benton Harbor wound up beating Saginaw. But that was one of the reasons why I wound up dropping them out of the top.
So do we think, I'm looking at TJ's top 10 right now, or you got Okemos at 6 or 10-0. In the preseason, wasn't it kind of the common belief that Williamston was going to be the best team in that area? I know they're B.
Well,
I know they're
Division
2.
Yeah.
But
I still think that Williamston is the best.
You'd say they're better. You say they're better than Okemos
in the LA, if I can say it like that. The Lansing area, as they say, 517. Get some Magic Johnson QD.
Do Williamston and Okemos play in the regular season?
That I'm not sure of. I think that Williamston's next big game is going to be against Glen Lake. Okay. And that's over. I
love Glen Lake. That's my squad this year.
Yeah, they're nice. Reese Hazelton
is really and Drew Peterson, the football player.
Well, he's graduated, but
No, Peterson's still playing.
He is. All right. Well, even better. So
but Okerlund.
Who's going to Lake Superior State.
Yeah.
That's going to be great for him. So
forgive me for not knowing. Is Roseville Division 1?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so you like Roseville.
Yeah, Roseville out of nowhere. I know TJ doesn't have them in his top 10.
Not yet.
The AP has them ranked, I think, 7th in Class A.
Division 1.
In Division 1.
Sorry. We got to kill that.
Class A is Division 1 and
yes,
Division 1 is
that's
Class
right.
A.
There's no more classes.
Coach Nizam is doing a tremendous job. They've got a real diamond in the rough in...
John Okamoto.
Yeah, I want to make sure I was pronouncing it.
Yeah, I know.
And he's about a 6'5", 6'6" wing that is just explosive. He can slash. He can finish. He's the type of kid that I don't think anyone really knew about until the last couple months, maybe back in the summer. I know he was at Bloomfield Hills as a sophomore playing JV. Somehow he ends up at Roseville over the last year. And he's really
flourishing, huh?
He's been a breath of fresh air out of the MAC, and Roseville might be the best team in Macomb County right now.
Yeah, well, I had the opportunity to see Roseville this summer.
They beat New Haven. They beat New Haven.
Right.
They beat Romeo.
Yes.
And one thing I do like about John is, he's still like as far as upside, and on the boys' side, some of these guys aren't done growing until they're 20, 19, 21 years old.
Sure.
And they're far from a finished product. And when guys have come out, college coaches, when they've come out to see him play, they're like, kind of like an eye opener.
Yeah.
He may need to take the JUCO route. That's not a for sure.
Yeah, I heard that Vincennes.
Yeah, but when you have some of the top teams in the country, on Division I junior college, which we don't, we have Division II junior college here in Michigan.
Right.
As far as Schoolcraft and Mott and
Correct.
and further on.
Yeah.
But when you have schools like Indian Hills in Iowa, when you've got Hutchinson, who's recruiting them out of Kansas, when you've got Vince.
Those are JUCO programs that are putting kids in the NBA.
Yeah, right.
No one from Schoolcraft, all due respect, is going to the NBA.
Yeah, but those are the blue bloods, of the junior colleges.
Right.
And and when you really have those guys, out there and they're paying attention and they're giving out offers, then this is definitely a kid. And talking about Dreyon O'Neal, who's at Wayne Memorial, who's on another strong team in Wayne, or in Division I, who could easily be, we could easily see at the Breslin. He just committed to Gillette a couple weeks ago. So, there's nothing to be shake your tail at or whatever, shake your stick at it as far as like junior college. It's just another way where you can go get an education, where you can play basketball, and how
you can lay the foundation for what you're going to do.
After
those 2 years at the JUCO, and then really lay the foundation for going to the Division I level and kind of
or
setting your career ablaze.
Or go pro.
Yeah.
Right. You've said you've done your time. Yeah. It's not like it has to be 1 year of 4-year college, right?
Corey Hightower.
I don't know. Most kids though, I think, are going from the JUCO level into a Division I program, and then maybe they stay a year there and then.
Right, but let's face it. If there are some who just for whatever reason academically also just don't want to do it. You can
Sean Kemp,
and there are G League options too. Which
Sean Kemp went right to the NBA from a JUCO after he got booted out of Kentucky.
Oh, that was I bring up Corey Hightower, who's
now the girl, and he's the girls' coach now at Waterford Kettering.
At Waterford Kettering. He was
one of the greatest JUCO players of all time.
Yeah, there's one.
Just got inducted into the JUCO Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yes, but if you're talented, they will find you.
For Roseville, I want to shout out the backcourt. Darian Banks and Martell Turner. Banks is the point guard. Turner's the off guard. And they do a really good job of augmenting John on the wing. Coach Nizam, they were I think took a pretty big step last year as a program. They were 17-7. I believe they won their league, won the district. Ended up losing to Coach Toko and Dakota in the regionals, but they announced their presence with authority in the first week of the season by beating De La Salle and Romeo Weems in New Haven.
Yeah. More rankings and results will go to Division II and TJ's rankings, which are available right now
Scooby
at
Express
StateChampsNetwork.com. Number 1, Benton Harbor. Number 2, River Rouge. They're 6-1. They beat Henry Ford Academy Creative 81-49 on Tuesday. Williamston was idle. They're in 3rd. New Haven ranked 4th. We talked about Weems and New Haven. They beat Warren Mide 84-50. Bridgeport was idle. They're number 5. 6, Holland Christian lost to Hudsonville Unity Christian 63-42. Grand Rapids CC beat West Catholic, and so he's got them ranked 7th. Harper Woods ranked 8th. They beat Hamtramck 70-61. Pontiac, which has been a big surprise this year, has got them in the top 10. They're 9. Beat Royal Oak. They're 10-0. Beat Clarkson earlier in the year. Hold on, 58-41. And then Wayland Union ranked 10th. Beat Middleville Thorn Apple Kellogg by 2, and they round out your Division II top 10.
Yeah, I think Division II is by far the most fun of all the divisions, and we've had the luxury of being able to see River Rouge kind of grow up at the Breslin, Benton Harbor grow up at the Breslin, New Haven grow up at the Breslin. Will Williamston be the school that winds up, finally breaking through? Can Wayland, Williamston, Wayland, they've had some big victories over the last couple of years by beating a really strong Godwin Heights team, but we haven't seen them at the Breslin. That might change this year. But as far as Division II goes, there's that's almost a crapshoot. The problem is, the difference between that and Division I is they still have a lot of star power. And to be honest, if Division II were to play against Division I, I think that Division II would probably take out Division I.
Sure, and that happens oftentimes even in football.
Without a doubt.
If you matched them up.
I just want to add that if Romeo Weems is going to go get that second state title for his prep career,
yeah,
he's going to have to go through Pontiac right now in the regionals. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it before the break that we're kind of having a renaissance in Pontiac basketball, kind of a return to when Pontiac was one of the true meccas of hoops in the state of Michigan.
A rise from the ashes of the Silver Dome.
And they're even through the Midwest and even through the nation. People knew who Pontiac was.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And that's a matchup that I'm very eager to see. If Pontiac gets through their district, I expect New Haven to get through their district. That might be the game that decides who's at Breslin. Not necessarily who wins the state title, but out of that part of the bracket, who's going to Breslin? If
have you had a chance to see him?
I've not had a chance to see him.
I haven't either.
I got some reports from Pontiac from friends when I saw him, and they just go out there, and it's almost like from what I heard, it was like they just have a chemistry that they've been playing together for a while.
Yeah.
And sometimes in having that, that's why Clarkston, I think, has had so much success, because those guys play together. They know everybody. What do you say? KYP, know your personnel.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing.
For Pontiac, it's all about the front court. They have a serviceable backcourt, but that front court of DQ Cole, who's having just a breakout season on the wing, 6'5", player that it might be the most improved player in all of Oakland County, averaging over 20, close to 25 a game, comes from a pretty prominent basketball family in the annals of Pontiac basketball history. The Cole family, I think there were 3 Coles that played at Pontiac Central.
Nice.
1 or 2 of them had actually gone and had a cup of coffee in the league.
Got it.
And then they have a really nice big guy in Cleante. I'm blanking on his last name right now. But Cleante, the 6'6", the round mound of rebound in the middle. He's big. He's the type of kid that can play Division II football or Division II basketball. And then they got Dominique Stovall, their quarterback on the football team that plays at the power forward spot.
That was Scott Burnstein who said that, Cleante. He called you the round mound of rebound, not I. So when I come see you guys,
he's like 6'6", 250. I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with in the middle, and is doing a great job of patrolling the post.
Make sure those legs move fast.
Yes, exactly.
He's going to get one stride for every two that you have.
Let's go to Division III. You've got Flint Beecher, number 1. They're undefeated. Hanover Horton, number 2. They're playing actually tonight versus Grass Lake. They're undefeated. Paywama Westphalia is undefeated. They're number 3. They beat D4's number 3, Wyoming Tri-Unity Christian on Tuesday, 52-35. Iron Mountain was idle. They're 4th. Maple City Glen Lake, 7-1. They're 5th. Detroit Pershing, you've got them at 6. There they are in Division III. Beat Osborne 60-52. I know there was a lot of talk about that, a lot of hype going around that game. Quincy at 7. They're 8-0. A lot of undefeateds here in Division III. They beat Reading 55-46. Detroit Edison PSA is 7-3, Public School Academy. Sanford Meridian 9th. They beat Farwell 66-26 last night, and meaning Tuesday. And Kalamazoo Hackett rounds out your top 10. They beat Goebel 75-46.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Hanover Horton made a big jump in my rankings and is just doing a little bit more research, just finding out a little bit more about their team. I would love to go out there and be great if I could find a doubleheader where
Cleante Brown. Sorry.
All right. From Pontiac now.
Okay, there it is. All right.
Not from Hanover Horton.
Yes.
But I'd love to go out there and maybe catch a doubleheader if Hanover Horton could play like a 5:00 game, and then Athens could, who's also down in that same region, if they could play a 7:00 game or a 7:30 game. But taking that trip out to Michigan Avenue, the old path down to Chicago. Is definitely worth it. But Hanover Horton, they've got twins, the Lakita brothers, whose older brother Preston was phenomenal for Hanover Horton a few years ago when I played in college. The older brothers, the younger brothers, they still don't have the height that Preston had, but eventually, you can. I'm not saying that they're younger, but one of the things about Hanover Horton is they're getting it done and they're young, and saying that they don't have their main core isn't centralized seniors, so they could definitely be back next year. And how Beecher is playing right now, I think Beecher is arguably the top team in the state. If you were to have Benton Harbor,
Jalen Terry, Ernest Sanders, man, that is a dynamic duo.
And again, coaching Mike Williams.
Oh yeah, you can't look past
this guy.
Mike Will.
This guy gets so much done. He
gets a lot out of his players.
Yeah, and not only that, they understand what they're supposed to do. Everybody accepts their role. Everybody knows what they're going to do. And everybody looks better. Get the ball to Jalen. Get the ball to Ernest. You're not the one that's throwing alley-oops. And as long as everybody understands it, and it's just about playing under the restrictions that are going to help you win. It's about there's sacrifices and stuff like that. So
you mentioned early in the class Glen Lake and Williamson at SVSU on MLK Day.
Yes.
So
I'm really excited about that matchup.
Yeah, January 21st, I believe.
Yeah.
Sean Cobb and Joe Hannenberg for Williamston, and then obviously we know what we get from
Glen Lake.
From Glen Lake with Okerlund, Hazelton, and Peterson, a group that was at Breslin last year, played in the state finals.
Yeah.
And they're a team that I really expect them to be back at Breslin challenging for a Division III state championship. That type of experience is invaluable, and it just it just makes them thirst for that title even more, because they were right there on the precipice last year.
And back over on the east side of Detroit, you said Pershing's now representing again?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the east side has never looked so bad as far as basketball. And
right.
Let's say this east of Mount Elliott. I don't want anybody Crusaders or anything thinking I'm throwing them in with that.
Right.
But yeah, it's good to see Pershing. It's almost one we've talked about in the past in past shows, where the state is only as good as Grand Rapids and as a whole. Well, the state needs Pershing as well.
They need the brand. They need the brand names, the blue bloods,
and
just like we were saying, it's good when basketball in Pontiac is good. It's good for the state. When basketball is good at Brother Rice, it's good for the Catholic League.
Yep. Yeah.
When basketball is good at Pershing, it's good for everybody.
Yeah, and Twig Hill, who won a championship with Pershing back in the 20th century.
Like you were saying. About Pontiac. Pershing was a national brand. They won in 1993, I believe, they won the national championship. USA Today ranked them the number one team in the state, number team in the country at the end of the year.
Yeah.
With Todd Berg and Carlos Williams and Willie Mitchell.
Young Willie Mitchell.
Yeah.
The head coach at Detroit Osborne, who just lost. What was it?
Yeah.
60 to 52.
Yeah.
60 to 52. All right. I hope that wasn't a home loss.
Steve Smith, Winterford Walton.
Yeah, but phenomenal.
Kay Felder.
Yeah, phenomenal.
So what's been their resurgence?
Keith Appling. Derek Nick.
Well, they're well. I have they'll be in the stands and stuff like that. But Twig really.
Keith Appling won't be.
Yeah. Well, Twig Hill's the new head coach there. After Wydell Henry wound up leaving and going to Warren Lincoln. He's got a strong group of freshmen that are ready to play. One of them being his son. I just know him as Squally.
Okay.
Squally Hill.
Like that.
He's a freshman who's the youngest out of many brothers and sisters.
Wasn't he? He had another kid that was starting in the backcourt last year, the year before.
Still there.
Yeah.
Who's also a senior, and then Ron Hill was another son who just graduated.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of you.
But they've got freshmen that are playing beyond their years. They're not scared of. They're not playing scared. They almost take the right shots at the right time. Every now and then they will remind you that they are freshmen.
It
is what it is.
We have a ton of talented underclandmen in the state right now, and just hope that we keep them in the mid.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Freshman and sophomore classes are just rich in talent.
Yeah, but I could easily see Pershing going undefeated in the DPS East. As they have to play Southeastern and Denby, as well as the Davis Aerospace Osborne again. Right. And I could easily see them going undefeated. And let's say if they make it to the city championship or city semifinals, then that'll be great for them. And you can probably imagine there'll be plenty of Doughboy fever will definitely be back.
We should shout out Quincy, who TJ has number 7. William Dunn is having a great senior year. Has had some real big outputs individually, and obviously his team's 8-0.
Yep.
And then Iron Mountain, Foster Wonders, probably the best player in the UP, and the UP's got a very talented group right now in 2019 up in the UP, and Foster Wonders only a sophomore, but he's a game changer. He's a playmaker, difference maker. And a guy that TJ and I were talking about yesterday, he's already, as a sophomore in the UP, already has 2 Division I offers. One from Central Michigan and one from UW Green Bay. Foster Wonders. He's a wonder.
Yeah.
He's a wonder wall.
He's like Whitebread?
Yeah.
Foster Wonders?
He gets it done. I've had the great opportunity to watch him in the Michigan Elite 25 the last 2 summers, where we bring in Tim McCormick and Mike Dietz, and we have a little camp. And, he's versatile. Like, he's got size. He's 6'4", 6'5", probably like 200 pounds, but he can get a lot done. He can score inside. He can score outside. And as I've talked to a couple of college coaches recently, when they're like to target somebody as, well, what position is he? What position is he? I just want to, do you want a basketball player who can win? Yeah. And I think that's one thing that Foster really brings to the table. I would love to see Foster in Iron Mountain make a run to the Breslin just so that many more people, down the trolls down here over here, can see them, just because that'd be a great experience, and then we'll see if how far he winds up progressing. And I imagine that if Gabe Brown gets to play for former Belleville, standout Mike Garland at Michigan State, who's an assistant there, then it should only be right that Tom Izzo might be able to recruit again.
Yeah, out of Iron Mountain.
You would think.
And they also have a really nice point guard in Marcus Johnson, the leading scorer in the UP last year. I believe his dad's the head coach. Yep. And Marcus is a type of guy that if you're paying too much attention to Foster Wonders, he's going to burn you for 30.
Got it.
They've also got guys like Reese Gladstone, who's up at Reese Castor, who's at Gladstone.
Yeah.
You got
Marius Grizoulis.
Yeah, the
Marquette.
Lithuanian Lightning.
Yes.
Yeah, he was going down to Grand Valley State, but they got quite a few guys up there that are doing well, and it's great to see the Upper Peninsula. Really, we just like to see maybe 2 teams, come down.
Right.
We definitely loved having
Dollar Bay
in the house last year, but but to see also Powers North Central and stuff like that, just for a little bit of more familiarity.
TJ was not flashing our audience; he was showing he had a Dollar Bay T-shirt.
Before we move to Division 4, we should also give a shout out to the defending Division 3 champion Detroit Edison.
Yes,
and they got Brian Taylor, who was more of a complimentary piece last year and has really stepped to the forefront and is a guy that's just playing with reckless abandon, and it's a type of guy that's a real force of nature on the wing.
Yeah, and he is out with an injury for like about another week, another 2 weeks. I know Elon is the latest to get in contact with him, because I got a thank you from his dad. And I thought that was pretty cool and stuff like that. And I was like, you know where Elon is?
Yeah. All right, so before we get to our first break, we'll go through Division 4 in our divisional dissection here, and we're talking about TJ's rankings. Number 1, Athens. They are still undefeated on the year. They just beat Jackson Christian 56-33. Bellevue ranked 2. They're 6-0, beat Colon 58-37. Wyoming Tri-Unity is just had a loss to Pewaukee, Westphalia, but that's all right. Yeah. 52-35, Pewaukee, a D3 team. They've got them ranked 3rd. Frankfort 4th at 6-1. Howardsville Christian 5th. Brimley 6th. They just beat the Tour by a lot. Plymouth Christian comes in at 7th. They just lost to Green Hill 64-46. Camden Frontier is 9-0. They beat Waldron 62-23. Adrian Lenawee Christian at 9. Bessemer at 10. And,
no Southfield Christian.
No Southfield.
I think they're
Christian.
They're 3 and 4. 3 and 4. I think they won last night. They're 3 and 4 right now.
Yeah, but so when I'm doing these rankings, they're 2 and 4. It's kind of hard to justify being 2 and 4. And while I think that Southfield Christian will definitely make a run, I don't think that anybody would be surprised if they are at the Breslin.
I expect them to be at the Breslin.
Yeah, and I think that it's they should be expected to return. But at the same time, we can't take away the accomplishments of other teams. Yeah. And I'm really excited what's going on with the Irish Hills down there.
Yeah, so talk about Athens and Bellevue. That Southern Central Athletic Association.
East.
Yes, East.
Yes, yeah. I'll tell you what, they play twice later on this year. I got they play at Bellevue January 25th, and then they play at Athens on February 22nd. They will more than likely play in the regional, and that regional is super tough because you've also got Camden Frontier who's in there as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and if anybody has to be hanging out at I'm trying to think of one of the pizza spots or one of the food spots in Marshall, Michigan, which is not too far away from
Schuler's.
Yeah, Schuler. All right.
There you go.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Schuler's.
All right. I was thinking the big boy in Coldwater was still around. But right around that area. And again, man, like, hey, Hanover, we got Hanover, Horton, and Quincy playing each other at 5:00, and we got Athens and Bellevue playing. Man, that I would suggest the entire state go down there and check them out. But Athens and Bellevue are blowing teams out. I mean, they're winning by 30 and 40 points, and it's almost like when they're biting at the bit to be able to play against each other and really see what they're about, just to get a little bit more competition.
If I'm looking at D4 right now, I really like coming out of the west side of the state, Howardsville Christian at 8-0. They went to the quarters last year. They got maybe the best shooter in the state in Dylan Juergens. It's going to be a preferred walk-on at Central Michigan, and this kid can tickle the twine with the best there is in the mitten. And I think he had like a 60-point game a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think he also broke pretty close to breaking like the 2,000.
He averaged 30 a game last year as a junior. He
already gone over 2,000 points.
Yeah, and
which is a huge accomplishment in high school.
He's like
sure.
the Golden State Warriors should consider making him an honorary Splash Brothers member, because he can pop it like Steph Curry or Klay Thompson.
I hope you don't have too many Warriors fans mad at you about that. But I definitely think that he's nice, and it's.
Clay went crazy last night.
Yeah, 43 points.
And we need Division 4 play. We need those teams to, it'd be great to have a little bit of star power. Yeah. And when guys are going and watching them play in the Breslin or wherever else. And I'm talking about
like Powers North Central when we had them doing their thing a few years ago.
Powers North Central to me almost like a kind of like a cult following.
Yeah, it was.
Like, hey,
that was UP swagger. That was the definition of UP swagger.
Right.
It was.
They're coming down here.
One of the greatest semi games of all time.
That game-winning shot. I don't know the kid's name. He'll remember it for the rest of his life.
Oh yeah.
He's penciled his name into the MHSA record books, but to the ball, he gets the ball, he fumbles the ball, he doesn't know where he's going, he somehow takes a couple dribbles and just kind of chucks it up and then goes in.
Yeah, he was just as shocked as anyone that it went in. There's no doubt.
Great memories of it, but that's what high school basketball
That's it. All right, so on that, we're going to take our first time out. When we're going to come back, we're going to dive into the grab bag, talk a little bit about some of the unsigned senior guards going on right now. We'll talk about what's happening at sophomores. We'll get into a couple individual players, and Scott's got some hot prospects he wants to talk about, so that's all coming back right after this.
fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for one medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, welcome back to Hang Time, segment 2 here of our first podcast of 2019, as we are again right now just getting into the meat of the basketball season. We went over TJ's rankings. We talked about everything that's going on within the divisions and some of the teams that are who we feel at the top of the heap right now.
The race towards Breslin.
That's right. And again, you can check out all of TJ's rankings at statechampsnetwork.com. Read all of Bernie's blogs that are at statechampsnetwork.com. The rundown will get going again. And so a lot to consume there at the website.
TJ's going to kind of guest host some of the rundowns. With
me.
I
like that.
When we start breaking down some of the basketball,
Yeah.
little 2-minute, 3-minute videos talking about, some of the hottest topics and
Yes.
hottest recruits.
Absolutely. So what we now is this kind of a grab bag segment, and this is where we're just going to kind of jump around, talk about things that are happening with inside boys basketball here in the state of Michigan. And Mark Keeler, Wyoming Tri-Unity. He has 5 championships.
He'll be searching for his fifth.
Searching for his fifth, so one for the thumb.
Yeah.
What say you about him?
He's one of the guys that really gets it done. He's got a freshman that's outstanding right now, and I've got a little brain fart that's going on. But
That's all right.
I'm sure that it'll pop up to me right around 5 minutes after this goes.
It's all good.
But he's but Keeler. We've talked about coaching earlier in this podcast, and he's one of those guys that just gets it done. And I've got him ranking 3rd, coming out of his region, and I believe that they will play and they'll be in the same quarterfinal as or regional final or quarterfinal.
Yeah.
As the Athens Bellevue winners. So
nice.
We won't be able to see them all at the Breslin.
Right.
But
but the winner coming out of that is going to be definitely the favorites going into the Breslin.
It's going to be the favorite.
Yeah.
And, I'd love to see teams or coaches get their first victory. I also like to see milestone accomplishments.
Absolutely.
Like getting your 5th win. And I think that Keeler will probably already be a Hall of Famer.
Keep pushing that benchmark further and further.
You get those 5 wins, and I don't think anybody's going to catch Dave Souls in East Catholic. It's just not going to happen unless, you got to be starting at like 25 or something like that nowadays.
Right.
But Keeler is one of the best coaches that we have, over in Michigan. And I guess you could say for a couple of generations now. I think while he hasn't won since I don't think 2011. But that's still his first one. Still stretches back 25 years.
Right on.
And he's got a real Sir Grind-a-Lot of a senior captain, and I think his name is Bennett Sinner, who averaged like 20 points and 8 rebounds a game last year on a team that went, I think, 16-5 or 16-7, and they got a nice another all-conference guard. I believe his name is Braden Ophoff. So they got 2 playmakers and 2 guys that are cash money on from the perimeter, and you add that with a tactician like Keeler, and sky's the limit.
You never know some of the guys that he's had in the past. Like all of a sudden people don't know about him, and then boom, rise out of nowhere.
Right.
Who's a big fellow who played in the NBA for so long.
Chris Kaman.
Yeah, Chris Kaman.
Yeah.
These are guys that nobody knows about, and then all of a sudden.
I believe he also coached a future Division III All-American that was a point guard on some of his state title teams, Brian Fultice.
Yeah.
And speaking of those who nobody knows about, or at least is not paying enough attention to, is we have a veritable plethora of very good guards this year who are seniors and have either not had offers or however it works,
committed,
it's not
signed.
committed. Yeah.
So shout out to all the coaches and the scouts out there. Get in here. Bring your scholarships. Bring a pen.
Yeah.
Because these kids are going to be really paying it forward for you in the future and getting the job done at the college level. Because all these kids right now that aren't committed, that aren't signed, sealed, and delivered to whatever to various respective colleges, are all kids that can get the job done and are true playmakers.
Yeah.
I think to me, as far as point guards go, we've got Joe Moon, who's been phenomenal for a kid that doesn't even have, a GLIAC offer. But then I see GLIAC schools that are there, GLIAC coaches,
right?
And I'm just like, and I see your eyes getting big.
Yeah,
I see their eyes getting big, and I'm just like, all right, how are we balancing it? You don't want to offer just because you're afraid that as soon as you offer, then that's going to draw attention,
right?
And all of a sudden,
right?
University of Detroit or Oakland or Western Michigan or something like that, they're saying, hey, let me go find out what Saginaw Valley State's. Let me see what Grand Valley's doing, and then all of a sudden, now they're competing with some of the bigger dogs, and while they can recruit on that, against them, sometimes they wind up losing out.
Right.
But
well, John Glenn's Joe Moon, no doubt, is a game changer. Yeah. Takes over the
money
game.
Ball. Money ball.
Yes.
30,
this guy is a true gem and a true diamond in the rough. I just wrote a blog about how this kid needs to be considered now as a dark horse candidate for Mr. Basketball. After Romeo Weems, it's a wide open field, and he really came out of the gate scorching. His first two games of the 2018-19 season, 37 points, 38 points.
Yeah. Beat a good Wayne team, and it was really on him.
I likened it in terms of what I foresee this Mr. Basketball candidacy being like to a couple years ago. Spencer Littleson from Rochester Adams wasn't a guy that really people were considering a Mr. Basketball candidate before the season. Came out the first month of the season, was averaging close to 30 a night. All of a sudden, he's getting people's attention. All of a sudden, he's on the ballot and he finishes third.
Yeah.
So I think that Joe Moon has a similar trajectory. And like with Spencer Littleson, he was a guy that he had some Division I offers in between his junior and senior year, but didn't really get hooked up with a college until kind of
and then won at Duquesne, and then he's this.
But redshirt sophomore. I don't think he committed to Duquesne until
he was a Duquesne. Yeah, as fresh.
But I don't think it was until after his senior year that he actually shored it all up.
Yeah, I believe you're correct as well.
Because I know he had A10 offers and whatnot, but. Joe Moon is the real deal, and he's the type of kid that he just has that moxie, that quiet confidence. Isn't a guy that's going to be talking your ear off on the floor or even off the floor, hyping himself up. But then when you see him on the floor, his game doesn't lie. He's the truth.
Yeah, right. The motor.
Yeah,
the motor.
I think he does just a great job of controlling the action, controlling the tempo, and to your point, he doesn't talk a lot on the court. Let's say this, like he's not, but it's almost like when Dad walks in, and you're like
everyone pays attention.
Everybody's like, all right, must be something important, who ate the big piece of chicken or whatever happened, But know that. But when he's out there, he commands that.
And as a college coach, I would imagine you love the way that Rod Watts coaches his teams because he's defense first.
Yeah.
So if you know that you can do it offensively, he's somebody who's going to preach defense always. So his defensive game is going to be there. And
what I had heard last year is that one of the things that he had to get better at was shooting from the outside. When I saw him over the summer, and then I saw him a couple weeks ago, right before the Christmas holiday, I didn't see that. I saw that he had really, really nice technique, really good form. His shots were hitting nothing but net. He wasn't straining
his jumper is far from.
Yeah,
is far from.
Yeah. So I was like,
that's the worst thing that you can go out there and point. I'm just like, all right. So you put 5 keys up, and there's one thing that he can't do. You better be happy that he can't do all 5, or because probably wouldn't be having this conversation, and he probably wouldn't be be that guy that can be on your bench playing.
Great body control going through the lane too.
A strong kid, great kid, and he, 3.5 student, great kid. He's got the support of his family and stuff like that, and that's another thing that I love to see about with a lot of parents. We go to talk about another point guard is Julian Dozier from University of Detroit Jesuit.
Dozier has offers though.
Yeah, while he's got some offers,
right.
It's not like let's see. I want to really see where those offers are, just because often you'll see some of those coaches that are going to be, they're at least going to stop through practice. They're going to stop through, through games. And I think that there have been a few regime changes from some schools that have that had offered them in the past. But I mean, it is what it is. Tarik Sheppard at Farmington, you know.
Who and I watched Tarik Sheppard over the weekend, this past weekend, in a showcase that Stevie Manrique put on, Prep Ball Classic or something. It was at North Farmington, and he was going up against Zeb Jackson, who's a Michigan commit, and Tarik Sheppard going up against Zeb Jackson, and has a teammate on Farmington, Jaden Akins, who might be the best sophomore guard prospect in the state. And in that game, Tarik Sheppard was by far the best player on the floor. 23 points, 8 assists, 3 or 4 steals. Just really controlled all aspects of that game, whether it be controlling pace and tempo as a point guard, whether it be getting in the lane and causing havoc on the drive and dish, or whether it was putting 3-pointers in defenders' eyes.
And he's also snuck up a little bit in height. I mean, I think forever I was, this is a kid that I've seen since he was literally a kid growing up, and I remember him at 3 feet tall. I remember him at 4 feet tall. And then for the longest time, it seemed like I was like, man, I'm still taller than you. And all of a sudden I saw him in a couple of weeks ago. And he was, I think, when Farmington played Harrison.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He was 5'11", 5'10", 5'11", and that's plenty serviceable.
I don't get with Tarik Sheppard why the D2s. I guess the same with Joe Moon. But more so with Sheppard, because Sheppard hasn't been hidden. Sheppard's been playing up until this year, playing next to David DeJulius.
I know Northern Kentucky offered
Tarik.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, we still have to see where some of those offers are after they've been on the table.
To me, that's like, why isn't Wayne State knocking on this guy's door? Why isn't Grand Valley and Saginaw Valley coming after him? It seems like whether or not he's D1 or not, I mean, I guess you could debate, but there's no question. Same with Joe Moon, that he's a GLIAC. Could be a kid that could find stardom in the GLIAC
or Lawrence Tech.
Yeah,
or LTU. Can't go wrong there.
That's right. Some other unsigned senior guards that you guys have them note: Vincent Sigmund,
I really like
Gio Miles, Trent Summerfield, Ali Brewster out of Hamady, and Evan Thomas at Okemos.
Yeah, Evan Thomas I had an opportunity to see him this past week and a half ago on the Motor City Round Ball Classic when Okemos came down, and I was talking with their athletic director Ira Childress, and the kid's got a 4.0. He's got a high SAT score. Pretty much go wherever he wanted, without basketball. But to me, it goes on one of those 5 kind of. All right, you've got a kid that's 6'3". You got a kid that shoots it well. I mean, he's a great kid. They're not going to get a phone call from the whatever PD at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. This is a guy that's that you want as a captain, or that you could see as a captain. As a junior or a senior, or maybe even before then, because the maturity level is there. When you see a lot of those kids that when they have the maturity, you can go and ask them to do things, and they won't think twice about it. Hey, this is the blueprint to success. Hey, you want to really shoot this shot? I need to see that you've got 2,000 makes or whatever in the last week, in shooting this, and then we can go along. But I think that what you put in the classroom is often what you're going to get in the results as far as athletically.
Yeah, Lawrence Tech likes those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that Lawrence Tech and Josh Pickens probably
Vincent Sigmund at Canton. Sometimes gets overshadowed by his backcourt mate, B. Artis White, the point guard that's going to Western Michigan. But Vincent Sigmund can hold his own. Yeah, and that is a swag nasty of a
we all
backcourt.
Saw them play Grand Rapids Catholic Central and play well.
And they've got a strong backcourt. Austin Brown. Is no joke. And Devin Boyd is.
Austin Brown, though, had 30 points last night, led his team to another victory. They're 9-0, Madison Heights Madison. So Austin Brown showing that I can chuck the pigskin on the football field. I can chuck the pill from the mound and the baseball diamond, but I'm just as dynamic as a basketball player. And nobody was talking about Austin Brown. Brown. Yes. Of Austin or of Madison Heights Madison as a factor in the boys basketball world of 2019, and he's averaging 25 a night, and he is electrifying.
He's a confident young man.
Yes, he is quite confident.
Yeah, multi-sport athlete.
Quickly, just a couple. We're running down the last few minutes. Couple sophomore guards. Just the class right now.
A lot of great sophomores, especially in Oakland County where I do most of my coverage. But if you're just talking about Jaden Akins, from Farmington, maybe the best prospect in that whole class out of the backcourt. You got Brody Parker at Troy. You got Ethan Emergent from Rochester Adams. Just those three off the top of my head.
And Trevor Smith.
Trevor Smith at Stony
Like the
Stony Creek.
OAA White is the future of. I'm not saying that anybody's going to get bumped. I don't imagine Clarkson isn't going to get bumped or anything like that from the OAA Red, but there's a lot of really good talent in the OAA White, and you talk about guys like Trevor Smith, who's a little bit big. And the thing is, they all bring something a little bit different. Ethan and Brody are best friends,
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, shoot, that's an easy go. Well, you're the keys. Go in the gym. I'll leave you alone for 4 hours.
Right.
And they're going to come out and they're going to be better players.
Yeah.
Trevor's one of those kids. A phenomenal.
Trevor's a great floor general.
And a great student. His dad played football at George Mason or George Washington, one of the two, one of the Georges.
All right.
But it's going to come along. Then you bring up Groves, and they've got Daniel Lee.
He's more of a wing. He's more of a
wing. But I mean, again, in the OAA White, and as a sophomore, and then we can't forget about Julian Roper over at Detroit Country Day.
Oh, he's fantastic.
I mean, he's got an Iowa offer, and when you start saving your parents a lot of money on college tuition and scholarships as a sophomore, that's probably a pretty good representation that they're going to have more.
But Jaden Akins over at Farmington, I don't know if he's a point guard or if he's more of a shooting guard, whatever. Call him a combo guard. He is a blockbuster of a talent. He had 35, I believe, back on Friday night against Troy Athens. He had a game early in the year where I think he had 37. He's the type of kid that is just is ripping nets from the second he steps on the floor. And as a guy that
sizzling the strings,
is a guy that just really can do a lot of damage in a lot of different ways. He's a southpaw. He's about 6'3", 6'4", so he has size. He can get to the rack. He can shoot off the dribble. He's got a real quick release, and he's the type of guy that's a closer.
Yeah, I think he's the top scorer out of all those. And not only that, there's so much versatility as far as his ability to score. On the next level, they'll probably label him as a combo guard. He'll probably play a lot more shooting guard than he will point guard. But the thing about him is he's got a good enough handle where he can beat pressure. He can bring the ball up the court. He's a good decision maker where he's not, he doesn't turn the ball over. Let's say this, he's getting rid of some of those freshman tendencies where it's just like, hey, look at me here, and all of a sudden you dribble the ball off your knee. That's not coming along as much as it was. He's outgrowing that. And that's only.
And he's got Steph Curry, Klay Thompson range.
Cool.
I mean, he can pull from 25 and just effortless.
All right, couple more nuggets at the bottom of the grab bag. We're pulling up Ty Rogers, the talented freshman.
Yeah,
from
everyone's talking Amani Bates or Javon Hanna.
Yeah, Javon.
But you can't look
Wassel
past.
over at Clark.
Yeah, Wassel, Kareem Rozier at St. Mary's.
Yep.
You got to talk about Ty Rogers though if you're talking about the best freshman.
You said last Saturday against Chicago Thornton he put on a show.
Yeah, but I mean the thing about him is he's got size, he's got athleticism, he's solidly skilled. And we look back a few years ago. I can't help but think about how Josh Jackson and Miles Bridges, when they were both freshmen, because down here in Detroit everybody was talking about Josh Jackson. Jackson. And Imani Bates is the one that's getting the national.
He's like
press.
the Miles Bridges.
They're having like whiteouts on Friday and blackouts on Tuesday.
Right. But Ty is one of those guys where he's going to emerge. He's going to have when you look at their high school stats when it's all said and done, let's say they both fortunately hopefully stay in Michigan.
Yeah.
That they're going to be pretty close stats. Could they both be top 10 players in the country? I could definitely see it. I think because Ty's one of those guys where does he really need to grow that much more? Imani is in the same position.
Where does Ty play as AAU?
He plays with the family. Actually, he was playing up on their family's team.
Okay.
And Imani Bates was playing up on with Bates Fundamentals.
Yeah.
And they were both playing, on arguably the toughest circuit that there is in the EYBL and playing on that 15 and under level. Well, they're going to see many of the best players all the time, and they were doing that as incoming freshmen.
Right.
So playing up a year, is a testament to Ty Rogers as well as Imani Bates. But I just like what Ty does. He brings energy. He's a smart guy out there on the team. He's one of those guys where Mike Thomas can You need to get down there and we need you to box out. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. And he doesn't put his tail in between his tail or tail in between his legs and run off and feel like, oh, coach is treating me
He
wrong.
can get in his face and he just takes the direction.
Yeah, and Dad's right there. Like, good job. That's what I want.
It's like Cassius with Izzo. Izzo can get right in his face and then Cassius just, knows that's the drill and just goes to work.
I know, Coach.
Yeah.
Let me note something real quick that I saw over break about, we're talking about this freshman class. Cream Rosier, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. As a freshman, I mean, to me, he's the best point guard, pure point guard in that freshman class. He plays point for Amani Bates' AAU team, so he's feeding the ball to Amani over the summer. This kid's level of understanding of the game and presence and poise and composure for a 14-year-old kid is off the chart. And I just want to give one example of that. So I was watching them at a Christmas tournament over at L'Anse Creuse North, and it was the first couple plays of the game. And I'm not going to name the kid he was talking to, but there was a senior that plays in the front court. He's the freshman point guard, and there was some confusion on a play, and there was a stoppage of a whistle stop, and the freshman Kareem Rosier goes over to the senior and gets in his face and says, "You need to know where you're going. You need to know what we're running." He's like, "If you don't get on the same page as us, I'm going to tell coach to take you out of the game." And it's like to have a freshman have that kind of confidence to go up to a senior, and the senior was like, "Okay, yeah, don't worry, Kareem. I'm gonna make sure I'm on my P's and Q's now, and we'll be fine." And they ended up winning the game by 40 or 50 points, and now they only have those 2 losses, and they look really good. Obviously, Lauren Bowman's going to Wisconsin, but to have that type of presence of mind as a freshman, and I was blown away, and I tweeted out right after that. I was like, I haven't seen this level of leadership from a freshman guard since a Foster Lawyer or Rashad Phillips, or I hearken back in the 2000s when I was living in Chicago. I was friends with the family of John Shire, who ended up being a captain at Duke and winning a national championship at Duke. And I saw him play as a freshman. And those were the only other 3 kids, Cassius Winston maybe, that I ever saw as a freshman that could maintain that level of leadership and that kind of presence.
Yeah.
And it was just really impressive.
I think leadership quality is one of the keys to that, especially as a freshman.
And it was a quiet gym too. There wasn't a lot of people there, so everyone could hear it.
Is the respect that you're given by by the upperclassmen. I mean, there's so many times where you might be able to see a freshman out there and you can be yelling, and that junior or senior look back and you you do know that we got 45 minutes back to the gym or whatever might not happen.
All right.
But yeah.
All right. Let's quickly wrap it up. You wanted to get in something about Quincy's Will Dunn.
Well, I just want to talk about a couple what I call Wall Street Warriors, kids that are really shooting up the recruiting chart right now. Obviously, we talked about Will Dunn a couple minutes ago out of Quincy's. Had some real big performances, looking real good on the block. I really like Trey Townsend at Oxford. Had a 28-point, 15-board performance last night. He's a guy that I think a lot of the Division I schools have to start paying attention to. I know Oxford isn't considered a basketball hotbed, but this is a kid that really warrants attention on the wing. His dad was a starting center at Oakland University back in the 90s. His mom was a star, I believe, in the backcourt at Waterford Kettering, and then I think at OU as well. And both TJ and I went out and saw him last week, and we really like what we saw. And then another kid in the post that's really kind of come out of nowhere after having an underwhelming junior year is Yusuf Jihad at North Farmington. 6'9", a lot of length, a lot of athleticism, really nice touch. Only averaged about 4 points a game last year. Was, I think, coming off the bench, not getting a lot of minutes. Had a really, really impressive summer that was very productive. And then so far out of this year, he's been their leading scorer. I think he's averaging like 16, 17 a night, 10 rebounds, can block shots, really high, shoots a high percentage. And so with Dunn, Townsend, and Jihad, those are 3 kids that maybe when you talk about the Division I recruits in Michigan, those aren't at the top of the list, but they're guys that need to be considered and looked at.
Yeah, I think, let's say this, the guys who I've talked to about Townsend, and it's kind of funny because when I talk to college coaches, and that's be on all levels on NAIA Division III, so I could talk to Lawrence Tech or I could talk to whatever, and they'll say, yeah, I'd really like that kid. You can kind of get a measurement about how good a kid is, well, I don't know if he can play on our level or whatever
Right.
else, and then you're like, man, I think we're seeing the same thing here.
Yeah.
You're just telling me, different information just to kind of keep a kid under the radar.
Right.
Or, hey, man, that kid's really good. Pretty much saying, hey, well, if he doesn't come and play for me, I'm definitely going to help him play for whatever college coach that's not in my league and not in my division.
Dunn and Jihad are seniors. Townsend's a junior.
Dunn's a junior.
Dunn's a junior.
There are a lot of good juniors that are popping up. I mean, even
Dunn and Townsend are juniors, and Yusuf's a senior. He's only 16, just turned 16 though.
But look at Nicholson over at Clarkston. He's another guy that's flying so far under the radar right now. A lot of it has to do with him playing behind Big Ten guys. In
Taylor Curry.
Taylor Curry and Kithier. He's still got to practice against him and play against him on a regular basis, which obviously has helped his game because now he's starting to put up those big numbers that maybe were expected.
He had 20-12 last night in the dub.
Yep. So those are paying attention to Clarkston. They know what was going on.
All right, quickly, and I'm putting you on the spot here. Any big games this weekend? Anything happening that we need to be aware of?
You know what? It's kind of slow. I know it. What UD plays at Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
They played yesterday.
They played.
Jesuit won. Yeah. 59-52.
Okay. It's just kind of limited. In the PSL, we got nothing to look. I mean, I'm not going to say nothing, but.
Yeah.
You got Cass and King, and I guess that would be the next one to look forward to.
I'm going.
Detroit Douglas. How about this? Pierre Brooks puts up 50 points.
50 points,
night.
20 rebounds.
And 20 rebounds. And, so pretty much I'm just looking forward to a lot of guys getting out there and see what's going on as far as guys, the transfers when they become eligible, and then also injuries.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean.
So usually it's right around January 21st, something like that. That's when those guys can come in. I know Ypsilanti's looking forward to their guard coming available, as well as many other players.
Detroit, they get Caleb Hunter. There's some other guys.
It's interesting. All of a sudden, some teams just jump to the forefront because they've got some new bodies.
Right.
All right. So
on Friday, I'm going to go see a battle for bragging rights in the LVC, the Lakes Valley Conference. Wall Lake Northern, who's kind of the front runner this year,
undefeated,
against Waterford Mott, who was the champion last year. And Dave McGlown does a really good job at Waterford Mott, former star guard at Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, and then played at Southern Illinois, I believe, and started his coaching career at Berkeley. And then Johnny Jokai is one of the great, really young guys on the bench. And a
What's
guy
young, man?
Johnny Jokai, I think he's like 38.
All right.
Younger.
I'm sure that we got somebody for you.
yeah, exactly.
But he's only been a head coach, I think, for 3 or 4 years. He started at I think Livonia Franklin was there for a year,
and then he was also an assistant coach over at.
He was an assistant everywhere. Yeah, he's one of those guys that just really built a resume.
Coach Dante Mayton.
Yeah, Coach John, and then he played at North Farmington.
So TJ is referencing Kia Tyus, who is our engineer today. She's off screen; you can't see her, but she is our newest full-time employee here at Yellow Flag Productions. She does a great job. For you Hoops fans, just real quick as we wrap it up, and we're going to go to another commercial break, and we'll come back with Matt Mowery and Dan Young to wrap up this year for our BCAM talk. We're going to talk about the shot clock as well as, or lack thereof, and also we're going to talk with the head coach from Hartland, the girls program, Don Palmer. So, but for you Hoops fans, New Haven, Warren Mott, boys basketball highlights. We'll have that on State Champs this Sunday. It's also will be available on our social media here. Might even be up now, so you can check that out at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hartland at Northville, girls basketball game that I was at. We've got DeWitt at Waverly boys basketball that will be on this Sunday. Okemos and East Lansing, which is a real big girls game this week. Our In Focus story is kind of on Rashad Phillips. You all remember Rashad, as well as kind of the mentoring that he is doing with some of the young players, especially over at Country Day.
They call him Yoda now.
Yes, exactly. He's
himself Yoda.
He's got if you watch the show, you'll see his whole little backdrop and setup. Yes.
Thyself's nickname.
Yes.
Or we will come up with one better.
We will have.
Will be toilet bowl.
Yes.
I love Rashad.
Yeah, we'll have highlights of UD Jesuit and Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And we'll also have our main event, which is a girls basketball matchup that takes place on Wednesday between Flint Carmen Ainsworth and Saginaw Heritage, who is the class of Division
Saginaw
1.
Heritage is a superpower.
Yeah, so hopefully Ainsworth is the team that maybe could give them a good challenge. So we've made that our main event. That's it. You can check it out.
Mo Joyner going to
Champs.
Michigan State.
That's
probably
right.
the best point guard in girls basketball in the state of Michigan.
All that. So thank you, gentlemen, and we will talk to you next week. Matt and Dan are next, so stick around.
Yeah.
Coaching basketball is a rewarding and challenging pursuit, but you don't have to do it alone. The Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan are here to support you.
BCAM is the largest coaches association in the country with nearly 6,000 members representing college, high school, and middle school ranks. Members have access to drills, clinics, job opportunities, and it's the only way to vote for our annual awards, including Mr. and Miss Basketball.
Join today by visiting bcam.org, because better coaching always matters.
All right, welcome back to State Champs HangTime Michigan. We have State Champs HangTime Indiana starting up next week.
Great.
So that is very cool. And so, of course, the Hoosiers love their hoops, so it made perfect opportunity for us to start a podcast down there, and we'll have that going. And but this is Dan Young of BCAM. This is Matt Mowery, now full-time here at State Champs as the digital managing editor and our head writer. And Kia Tyus, who I mentioned before the break, is also now full-time with Yellow Flag Productions. So we have some new members of the team, and we are excited. 2019 is going to be a great year. And this segment here in HangTime is for us to talk a little bit about BCAM, and then also kind of get into kind of like a topic. And then we're going to have the Hartland girls head coach, Don Palmer, join us to wrap up the show.
Hall of Famer.
Yes,
Don
exactly.
Palmer.
Yes, pull that closer to you there, sir, your mic, so that we can hear you. Great.
Don Palmer,
Okay,
Hall of
yes,
Famer.
Exactly. So that will be coming up in just a few minutes. But first off, tell us, give us up to date kind of what's happening with BCAM right now. You know, we always have new listeners and even coaches out there who are not schooled to the fact that they should be a member.
You got it. A lot of associations around the country are high school only. We are a little unique in the fact that we are all basketball coaches from middle school, middle school, junior high, depending on where you're from, assistant coaches, and college coaches, junior college coaches, all levels in our state.
And why is that important to have all of that inclusive?
Well, when you have, from our perspective, we have built relationships at all levels, and we learn from each other, and we support one another, and we just, it was our philosophy from the get-go to be inclusive, girls, boys, all levels, and it's really been. I mean, it's not the only reason we're the highest. We have the largest number of coaches in our association at close to 6,000. Is that probably because of that and all the things that we try to do. So our membership period ends on February 15th. So if you're not a member right now, or your staff is not in, or you're just a little slow with your paperwork, February 15th is our deadline, and then our awards will start. Nomination of all our awards, from academics to coaches of the year to team academics to all-state to our Reaching Higher event, which is a top player event in the summer for recruiting. All those types of nominations are going to be heading. February is a big month for that, into March. And then getting to your state, your Miss Basketball voting, Mr. Basketball voting, which is for every member who's currently coaching. So if you're a 7th grade coach and you're the coach and you're a BCAM member, you vote for Mr. Basketball. I'm the executive director. I'm not currently coaching. I don't get a vote. So that is a perk that any member in our association who's currently coaching can vote for our Mr. and Miss Basketball, which is always an interesting time of the year.
And I'll tell you what, right now, if you want to talk about the players right now at the top of the heap, we had Romeo Weems on last night, and he was tearing it up for New Haven. That kid is taking high flying to a whole different level. You'll be able to watch those highlights on State Champs this Sunday at 9 a.m. But 36 points against Warren Mott, and he must have had 7 highlight dunks.
Yeah, he is, he's
he's real deal.
He's the real deal. You know, when you talk about Rakia Jackson from
that's the
Edison,
other one.
And it's not a done deal, but, you know, sometimes once in a while you have, you know, that special talent. And both of them right now are just amazing.
And the reason I really bring that up is because you and I'm speaking to the coaching crew, the BCAM members of Michigan, is that you need to know these two players if, you know, for some reason you're locked into your own region and everything, because sometimes the voting can happen that way where you kind of just vote for who you're familiar with. You need to get yourself familiar with everybody.
Right.
And these are two players, obviously, that hail from a Southeast Michigan perspective. But
you can look these kids up on YouTube and all the candidates.
Do the due diligence.
Yes. Because it should not be a regional thing from our state. It should be the best player wins. And I am confident that our coaches will do their due diligence before they vote.
Absolutely. So, all right, so let's get to the topic we wanted to talk about this particular week. And Matt kind of just thought of this and was like, well, you know, this is something that kind of gets bandied about. And all of us who have suffered covering basketball games that seem to take far too long because they end up being a 10-9 game because each team holds on to it is... Should there be a shot clock or should there not be? And obviously, Dan, you being his longtime coach, I'm sure you have great thoughts on this. Matt, what say you?
Well, it's one of those that, like you said, I've covered a number of games where, you know, somebody gets a small lead, specifically in the fourth quarter or even in overtime. I remember I covered a St. Louis Carson City Crystal district final, I believe it was, and the St. Louis coach, who, mind you, was a big proponent of actually adding a shot clock, he won the tap in overtime, the first 3 overtimes, and held for the last shot of overtime, because that's exactly what you can do, is as long as, you know, as long as the opposing team doesn't come out and close to guard you, you can dribble as long as you want, and those stall tactics kind of change the way you have to play defense. I personally am a proponent, although I can see arguments on both sides. I think it would speed up the game a little bit. I think it would eliminate some of those stall tactics. And I kind of floated it out there on Twitter this week when we were thinking about discussing it. And the response was almost unanimous. The one and only coach that I heard from that said, nah, let's leave things the way they are, was because he's an old school coach who wants to, leave things the way they are about a lot of things. But he also said... Was it Don
Palmer?
It was not, but it was one of Don Palmer's cohorts from that same region, Steve Emmert, who's coached all around.
Yes. Steve was your guy.
Yes, Steve. But he also said...
Many battles.
Yeah, he also said, not going to matter to us because we're not going to use 35 seconds anyway. We're going to get a shot off in 5 to 10. So, and most of the coaches said that if you have 35 seconds, you probably should have gotten a shot off at that point.
Right.
That's plenty of time, and if you need more than that, then there's something going on with your offense. And a lot of people mentioned that gets kids ready to play at the next level. It you know, fine tunes decision making and kind of gives you that in-game pressure of beating the shot clock. There obviously are, you know, one of the main arguments that I've heard over the years against it is this is going to be an additional cost for schools to install the shot clocks and find someone to run them, which is always something that you have to think about, the actual infrastructure of it. But I know this is one of those things that's come up over the years. It's maybe not got quite as much impetus as the seeding, which that's been an issue that's really been, you know, they've been coaches I know have been pushing for with the MHSAA the last
and more games.
Over the last while. But I know this is one of those that kind of resurfaces every once in a while, doesn't it?
I think that it's always brought up. It's brought up a lot, and it's starting to, from the National Federation of High School Coaches, starting to gain some more traction because the cost is now not what it used to be, because most, if not all, high schools have the current technology scoreboards, the Daktronics of the world, and whoever makes scoreboards, to be able to add that to their existing scoreboard now at a very small cost. But 5, 7, 10 years ago, there were a good majority. So I think the surveys that are going out to athletic directors and coaches of such from the National Federation are starting to look at. The other thing is USA Basketball is making a push to have a real continuity in our country when it comes to the game, and how the high schools, the colleges, and the NBA, and then the international, how that all is together, and how we are very different from one level to the next. Where the college men are now the last ones to hold on to halves, where the pros in men's and women are quarters, the college women are quarters.
Went last year, didn't they?
Went last year, and there's only a few states that are halves. I think Minnesota is, and there's a few others that might be that like it went halves and tried it.
Sure.
So getting that from an overall country, I guess, philosophy of how basketball should be played, the shot clock has been brought up. That maybe, if it's not costly, is it easy to run? I don't know how it would be great as a coach and a player to have that and be able to play into it. I think it would just, basketball should be free flowing and instinctual, and when it's not, it's just like it's not as fun for anybody.
Right.
And I've been on both sides of that where, we're at a game. I'm an assistant at Catholic Central, and we're playing Detroit Redford in the districts, and we're running zone. And the great Derek McDowell is from Detroit Western, held the ball against us, and he had Manny and all those guys. And because he's like, the minute we went man, they scored immediately. So he's like, you're going to play, you're going to go man. So he held it, and we stayed in it, because we were only down 6, and the crowd's yelling, and he was not going to break, and I've seen on the other way too. But he's a great coach, and they won, and we ended up having to come out of it eventually. But
well, there's nothing preventing you from milking it all the way to 35, right?
There's no question. We looked at it before. The men started in the 80s at 45.
45, yep.
And then they found that, I believe, they were getting shots off before 30 seconds anyway. And so they went down to 35, and now I believe they're at 30, right?
30.
The girls are too. And so
would 35 be like a good number,
35,
you think?
Yeah, I think
high
that's
school?
what most of, and I think one of the other things
they say most people were shooting it before that anyway.
And the timeline differential, because you have 5 seconds still in college to get across the timeline, or is it? Women's don't have, I believe, a backcourt violation. I believe their rules are slightly different. But the fact that they're just like the men now with 30, I've heard that the percentages are, other than at the end of the game, they're getting it off way before that. Is 24 too quick? Yeah, probably.
Probably. It's an entertainment thing, probably at the NBA level. It's probably going to happen eventually. That's the feeling we're getting. Is that if it's not too expensive, can you find somebody? Would it just be at the varsity level and not the lower levels?
Probably.
And can you find a use for it in another sport, that clock? You know what I mean? If you're purchaching something that can be like maybe portable.
Dual use,
Yeah, is there some other sport that requires some sort of shot clock? I'd have to go through all the...
Administering it, I mean, if you've been in a gym where they're setting up and they've got freshmen and JV, and it's, just trying to get people to run the scoreboard, to do the fouls and the... So I think from the, at the college level, I mean, it's you have plenty of staff. It would be great, wouldn't it? It would be, it's just...
And it could be somebody you have a senior do. I mean, all you're doing is hit it and then restart it. It's not like you have to run a clock.
When it hits the rim.
So, I mean...
I think it's getting to the point where it's...
Well, we're going to have a good conversation with a gentleman who has been known to play things out for a while, though he's not doing it with his current team. He's Don Palmer. He's coming up next, so hang with us.
So, I got my start in officiating when a friend told me I should try it. At first, I just did basketball, and I got hooked. Before long, I added baseball, softball, football, and volleyball. I really enjoyed giving back to the game, working with kids, and working with my local association to recruit and train new officials. I would like to say to anybody that officiating is a great way to help kids and stay connected to the game. We always need new officials. There's help wanted, just listen.
Okay, so while technology sometimes afford us to have our guests join us via satellite and we can see his facial expressions and his consternation and everything in our questions, sometimes we just get him via audio. And so Don Palmer, the head coach of the Hartland girls basketball team, joins us now. And Coach, I know you just got done with practice, I believe, and everything, so we appreciate you hustling home and joining us here on the HangTime Podcast.
Well, glad to be here. Glad to be with you.
All right, exactly. Sometimes you're just glad to be with us, right?
That's
Is that what
right.
you said? Yeah, absolutely. So, first off, and we're joined here again still by Dan Young and Matt Mowery. Had an opportunity to shoot your game on Tuesday, and really was a tale of two halves. I know that you said before the game your team had a rather extended break and chose not to play over the holiday season. So, let me ask you first, is that something you do every year? Do you guys basically just choose not to play any of the Christmas tournaments?
Well, we don't necessarily play in Christmas tournaments, but we normally have a game prior to the league restarting. And that game is usually with Holly, and it just didn't work out this year. We're still playing Holly, but it's at the very end of the season. So we just kind of got caught in almost a 3-week break, and, you know, that's never good. You can't simulate game conditions, and so we had a scrimmage, and that was about the best we could do.
Right. And I would say that sometimes having a break can sometimes be a benefit in the fact that you were able to get Whitney Solomon back on the court, and you didn't have to worry about missing too many games over the last few weeks for her to get back in there. And so you kind of saw some spot start for the 6'4" junior center. But talk about, basically her, what you evaluated on her performance last night, and then also how'd you feel after the game?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought that she would just be so anxious to play that, she might not be in control of herself. And it seemed like that, one, she was excited to play, but two, she exhibited some patience in the game. And yeah, she did get winded, but we've done some things to keep her in shape, but not game shape. So I was very pleased. According to our stats, she took 4 shots. She hit all 4, and, she makes an impact on defense with the block shots. So it was great for her and great for our program to see her back playing.
So the other question is, Northville leads 21-20 with 6:09 left in the third, and you win 51-21. How does that happen?
Well, I don't. I knew we were separating from them. I didn't know it was that distinct. And one of the reporters asked me after the game, did you realize you went on a 31-0 run? And I said, no, I didn't. I know that these kids, it's a talented group, and they can explode for a lot of points quickly. And I think, that's what they did. But I was not aware of it. I know that one quarter against one of the teams we played earlier, we scored 30. So they're capable of doing that. I think that when we separate a little bit, Northville, some of the shots that were going in for them, without problem, they started to, fall short. Like there's a big difference between, because I've been on the other end of it too, it's a big difference between taking a shot with a 15-point lead or taking a shot when you're down 5 or 6. So I think that's what happened. But like you said, it was just 2 distinct different games. And Northville's a good club, and we just caught them at the right time, but it took a half to do it.
Yeah, they were undefeated going into that game, and there's no doubt about it that they're a good program, and obviously it's a great mark to see your girls rebound literally the way that they did, and really close out and do it in fine fashion in the second half there, and win the game. That's your fifth straight you're 3-0 in the KLAA West. This is a segment that we do every week where we kind of celebrate the coaches. It's our BCAM segment, and Dan Young is here, and of course you have a history of going up against one another.
So I go in for my interview at Brighton High School, my first high school job, and one of the first questions was, how are you going to guard Don Palmer's flex offense at Milford High School? And I found out real quick that the 2006 Hall of Famer, BCAM Hall of Famer, it was just a play. We had some great battles, didn't we, Coach?
Yes, we did. I remember the first one at Milford. We won, but it certainly wasn't handily. And I thought, well, they've got a good young coach there, and we've got to go back there. And I remember when we went back the second time, it wasn't quite as much fun. So,
well, you're a class act. You're a great coach. You're a Hall of Famer, and it's great to have you on the show today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I know my mother didn't call because she's passed on, but maybe she did leave a message for you guys to say all those nice things.
Yeah. There you go, Coach. No, we appreciate it, and I know that Matt was at a game last night with another former adversary of yours.
Yeah, I was out at Waterford Mott last night to talk to the one and only Steve Emmert, and I know you guys butted heads quite a bit when he was at Walled Lake Western the first time, and at Walled Lake Central after that. How many times do you figure you guys went up against each other between the boys and the girls over the years?
Well, I don't think it's quite 20, but it's probably close. Wow. And it just seemed like, for a while we just couldn't avoid each other in tournament play. And there were some years that we just always scheduled each other because I definitely liked his style and he liked our style, and it made for good basketball. But he's a heck of a coach. He had a pretty long hiatus when he went into administration, or he would have, I know he just got his 400th victory.
Yeah, but he did last week, right?
Yeah. Had he not missed several seasons, for administration, that's his choice. He'd have 100 or 200 more without a doubt. He's that good.
Did you just get 900, Coach?
Yes, last year sometime. So I think you have to. Thank you. I think you have to remember on that. I did 2 seasons for a long time because way back in the day, like I coached girls basketball at Milford for 32, but I also did boys varsity basketball for 29. So I'm probably the only coach in Michigan history that's probably coached over 200 seasons. So just being facetious, but I've had a lot.
Yeah, no, exactly.
If you coach 900 years, you're going to get 900.
Yeah, exactly. Well, right. Just saying in the game.
It's still a game. It's still a season, and it's not like it was any easier. You still had to coach all those girls' teams, coach all those boys' teams. So 900 wins is 900 wins.
Yeah. And Coach, you're still doing it. What keeps you coming back every year?
Well, I still enjoy the competition. The other thing, when I got the job at Hartland, we could see this. By that time, I was just doing girls. When I got the job at Hartland, you could kind of see this storm coming. The lower levels, we were in the league with Hartland, the lower levels were just killing us. We were still managing to beat the varsity by 1 or 2 points. So when I got the job, and I asked my staff if they wanted to come with me, and thankfully they did. And I said to them, I says, there'll be no excuse for not winning because there's talent here and there's talent coming. And boy, that's proven to be the case for 10 years running. We just have good players.
Right.
when you kind of see that this year, Coach, where you lost quite a bit, obviously, from your team over the last couple of years, and you just bring in a bunch of freshmen, and those kids, you have to be impressed with the way they've played, especially when Whitney was out for the first couple of games, where they really kept you afloat, didn't they?
Yeah, I thought the second game of the year at Okemos, and at the time Okemos was ranked, and we hung on and won that game. I think we dressed 8 kids. Whitney was out, another kid was out, and I think the roster was at the time was 2 juniors, 2 sophomores, and 4 freshmen. So they're talented kids, and we knew all about them as 7th and 8th graders. I talked to a reporter the other night, the Roach kid that did so well last night. I saw her in 7th grade, and I thought her going into 8th grade, she could have played on our varsity then. So there's no coaching involved. There's just, you don't try to mess it up. It's what you do. Right. So talented kids.
Yeah, she was amazing last night, really hitting those 3 balls when you needed, and that really caused that separation, which really changed everything Northville wanted to do in the game. So Matt Markowski has got you just outside of his top 10 right now in Division I. But
that's exactly what you want to hear, Coach.
Yeah. And I've seen you play a couple of times. I saw the Heritage game and I saw the Okemos game. So I know how talented you guys are. So right there on the cusp.
So you're on the bubble there, but let me ask you just as before we let you go, just quickly, your thoughts on this team and this season, and kind of feel like maybe what kind of a run you can make.
Well, I think there's going to be a transition period for us to get used to playing with Whitney and her to get used to playing with us. We're kind of a press and run team, and she can do that, but we've also got to get some half-court sets where we get her some touches. So I do think we're talented enough to make a run in the tournament, but that always involves 1, being good, 2, being lucky, 3, being injury-free. And we'll worry about league play first. Brighton is a very, very good team, and we'll have our hands full with them when we play them. Yeah. But right now, we're just going a game at a time, and I don't think we have any margin of error. Brighton is very, very strong, and they'll take 2 good shots at us. But I think being a young team, we've got to worry about everybody, because you just don't, you put your fate in a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, you don't know what you're going to get night to night. So that's the fun of it. So.
Absolutely. And you've got the Solemn Sisters there, right, going at it. So that's always good and grounding for them. Last year you got to the quarterfinals. Wayne Memorial, a team who you lost to in the quarters, has rebooted, with tons and tons of talented young people. So it's always going to be really wide open. Before we let you go, we had a little bit of a debate talking about should we at some point embrace the shot clock into high school basketball here in Michigan. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
because apparently there have been times that you would definitely say you are not in favor of that.
I want to hear this. This would be interesting. Just because I think you've evolved into, because all great coaches and teachers do. They evolve with the times, the players, and you are a perfect example of someone who has evolved over the years. Now, maybe it has to do with your talent level compared to who you're playing, but we're interested to hear what your thoughts on this.
Well, I guess my comment would be I would still be against it, and here's why. One, the schools don't have any much money anyway, so who's going to pay for that apparatus? And more importantly, who's going to run it? Because most of the time when you go on the road or sometimes in your own building, there's a young kid doing the scorebook.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have a young kid do the shot clock, it's going to cause more problems than it's worth.
Let's say, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I think in basketball, there's a lot of things you can do to create turnovers and get the ball back and get back in a game. But that's what I worry about. You'd have to train somebody to do it and do it well, and all that stuff costs money. So that's my concern there. You don't want to win or lose a game because somebody messes up on the technical end.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, you're probably right. I was in a perfect world if we had the money and it didn't cost anything and we had people. Would it be fun? Do you think?
Oh yeah, I went to I try to go and watch my kids when they play AAU, and there's been a couple of tournaments where there is a shot clock, and I just think that's how kids want to play these days,
right.
and it's fun to watch. So I'm a Michigan State fan, and I love to watch them play the men's and the women's teams, and I just love Michigan and John Beilein, and that's fun basketball. And now kids are growing up; they learn 2 shots, layups and shooting threes. That's it. So
Right.
Yep, we got a long way to go. So, but Coach, with you sticking around, you can help get those fundamentals back into the way they need to play. And again, your team was really getting after it, especially in the second half, creating turnovers, just like you said, and taking the ball the other way and doing what needs to be done to get the win you needed. So, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Good luck. I think Brighton's next week, right?
Yeah, Brighton.
Brighton's Tuesday. We've got Canton on Friday, and then Brighton, and then after that, I think it's Plymouth. But it's a cliche. With this young team, we're going one at a time. We're not going to overlook anybody. So
absolutely,
keep up the great work, Coach.
Yep. Good
Great talking to you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay,
see you soon, Doug.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, so that was Don Palmer and Hartland girls basketball head coach, obviously coach for a long time around these parts.
That was interesting. I wanted to hear if it were in a perfect world would he still, and like all of us in a perfect world, if it was manageable and it didn't cost that much, I think most would want it.
Yeah, and
even Don Palmer.
Yeah, and maybe he's just like, I don't want to get myself worked up enough that when that kid forgets to hit the shot clock and I got to yell at the scorer's table,
He's
this kid doesn't shrink into the abyss and be like, hey, this is $9 an hour.
Right. I mean, that's the dilemma. It's high school. Can it
you don't want to unburden or put a further burden onto an athletic director and his staff for for doing that. But
it could happen.
Yes,
sure.
Exactly.
It could happen, especially maybe just at the varsity level.
Yeah, he hit the key argument too, because it was even when I was talking with Steve Everett and his kids at Walled Lake Western. Skip Stevenson, who had been an assistant for Don Palmer forever, was the previous coach before Steve Everett, and they played a very slow game. Yeah. And it was almost classic Palmer ball. And the kids, now that they get to run and press and trap, it's fun. And that's key sometimes to get those kids to buy in, I would assume, to get them to, if your kids like to play the way you're playing. And he mentioned that, watching them in AAU, that's fun, getting up and down the floor, getting to play fast.
So I coached 8 years at John Glenn.
Sure.
And game 20, we lost in the league semis. We played Hartland at Hartland, game 20, as a crossover. They were 17-2, and we were about the same.
Yeah.
But we wanted to go, and they wanted to slow.
Right.
And literally, my guys were like, Coach, they would stop and say, are they going to shoot?
Right.
And we wanted the buzzer.
Like during the action, they're looking at you.
32-31. Yeah. But it was a great game. But it was
it's like a chess match.
It was. They ran great stuff. The team was really well coached. They had 2 or 3 guys that could really shoot it, and they just were going to take a good shot and wanted to wear us out.
Right.
And so I don't know. There's that. Yeah. They're going to shoot it, but you got to get them to shoot it. You got to make them play a little faster. So it's that. it's a great debate, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
it is. So we hope to have more of these on the podcast. So hopefully every week we can come up with something fun and hopefully get a coach on to pick their brain, and that's kind of what we do. So again, that has been the podcast. This has been a rather lengthy podcast again this week. So I will just try to unburden Kevin Trzynski moving forward. That he has a lot to edit and get to, but we have fun. We're just getting back into 2019, getting back into basketball, and we'll be doing this for the rest of the season. It's going to be an amazing rest of the way, and
it's a lot of fun.
Remember, when is the deadline to register for BCAM?
Deadline to be a member of BCAM is February 15th. If you are past that, you are out. So coaches, make sure you're getting your paperwork in to Amy and our office, and so you're ready for all the postseason awards, Mr. and Miss Basketball, all state teams.
BCAM's best.
all state.
All the athletic one or the academic ones you have. Yeah.
Academic, college too.
Yeah.
College academic team individuals, coaches of the year at the college level. Team First Award is for anybody in your program that is a team first. Could be a manager,
right?
Somebody in your program that is maybe not the superstar,
right?
That is a important award, and people want and need to be recognized. So
absolutely,
sign up,
and it's a great way again for you to give back to somebody who's given so much back to your staff.
There's no
whether
question.
It be an assistant coach or a trainer or whatever.
Right.
So, all right. So you know what? You got about 36 days to do it. So make sure you get it done. And this has been State Champs HangTime Michigan, and we will see you guys next week.